Hi, I thought this would be a great idea to do with an ice cream. It's not, but here we are. Welcome to Actual Spinster. My name is Anne-Marie. I'm gonna do the mid-year book free cat tag, and I guess I would have liked to post this like a little bit earlier, but I still probably would wait until June had ended, because that is the full 6 months. And I'm only going to be counting books that I read in those 6 months, even though I have now read a few more books. So let's get on to it. I am going to try and eat this really quickly. Actually, I don't even think I have any physical copies of my favourite books of the year like with me. The first question is best book you've read this year. Also, I will just say that I'm going to add many answers to each question because that's how I am. So I think that the best books I've read so far this year are Confession with Blue Horses by Sophie Hardack, Middlemarch by George Eliot, Gingerbread by Helen Oyeyemi, and All My Puny Sorrows by Miriam Toews. Not like a huge range there, but like a bit of a range. The next question is best sequel you've read so far this year. One of the books I would pick for this is The Weather House by Nan Shepherd, which is in the, what is it called? In the series with the name that I cannot remember. It's in the same series as The Quarry Word. Ugh, can't remember, but anyway, that's the second in the sort of loose series. And I also thought A Master of Gin by P. Jelly Clark would work because it's like the first novel, but it's not the beginning of the series. And obviously you can read the novel as a standalone. I think it's much more enjoyable if you read it, at least after reading A Dead Gin and Cairo. New release I haven't read yet, but want to. I have like a couple for this, but I don't actually have anything that's released for the next question that is going to be released in the next part of this year that I'm like specifically looking forward to, and that's partially because I'm actually trying to like plug out of like new release focused reading a bit more. So I'm just going to say like a bunch of books that will kind of cover both of these questions but kind of not. And some of these books were also published in 2021, but I don't know, like, what is a recent release? You know what I mean? Like, I don't really want to play that game. I'm really excited to read Spear by Nicola Griffith. I'm also excited to read the sequel to The Unspoken Name by A.K. Lockwood, which is called The Thousand Eyes. I really want to read Tomb of Sand by Geetanjali Shree, translated by Daisy Rockwell. Since it won the International Booker, but also just in general, like, I'm really excited to read it. I've also heard that Revenge of the Scapegoat is good, and I think it might be like just up my street, but that is also already out. It came out this year, but a couple months ago. The next question is biggest disappointment, and I actually no longer have this book, but I think this probably counts as like the biggest disappointment for me, and that's The Inverts by Crystal Jeans. I was just like really excited for like the whole thing, and I just felt like it didn't deliver on any real part of what I had expected it to be. I think I would also include like Hamnet as a bit of a disappointment, although much less of a deep disappointment, and also On the Landing by Yenta Mash. I feel like I'm often not particularly surprised by my reading because I do spend a lot of time like learning about books and listening to people talk about books, so I generally have like a sense of what, like, whether I'll like it or like my response to things. But I guess I would say that maybe this was a surprise. Stubborn Archivist by Yara Rodriguez Fowler. Like, it was kind of a surprise as to what it was actually like, because I don't think I had really thought about what I was expecting in depth, but more so that like there's like this subtle, I don't know, I want to say like generosity, or like there's this like subtle emotionality to it, and like I think it's quite like a clever book even if it's not like the most sort of dense book, and it's really stayed with me in a way that I was surprised. And yeah, I guess my experience of reading it surprised me, and then there were a couple like scenes that specifically surprised me in like a delighted way. So yeah, I think I would say that. Favourite new debut or to you author, I think would probably have to be Miriam Karpilov, in translation by Jessica Curzane, so also she kind of fits too for this prompt, because I've read 2 of her books and I never read her before. Judith, A Tale of Love and Woe, and Diary of a Lonely Girl, or The Battle Against Free Love, which I thought were both really great novels that spoke to women's lack of agency, but also their like attempt to get that, their relationship with men, heterosexuality, you know, yeah, just like interesting Jewish gender politics of the like early 1900s, I guess, and you know, immigration and yeah, friendship, a little bit of anarchism there too. I do also think that, like, you know, I have only read one book by the rest of these, but they feel like they'll become favourite authors to me because I want to read more of their work, and that's, you know, Miriam Toews, George Eliot and Helen Oyeyemi, which is understandable because they have all written one of my favourite books of the year so far. So there's newest fictional crush. Yeah, I'm not like a big like crush reader. I think like Fatma in A Master of Jinn is pretty sexy. Newest favourite character I think would probably be Yolandi from All My Puny Sorrows. I just want to give her a hug, to be honest. She's going through a hard divorce, she's struggling to write books, it's difficult. I do also think that like Judith from Judith is one of my faves, and I have thought about her quite a lot. And then also actually another Judith, and I think partially it's because I read both of these books with main characters of Jewish women called Judith that I've like thought really intensely about both of them. But Reuben Sachs by Amy Levy has a character called Judith who is the dual main character. Like, she's definitely just as important to the story as Reuben Sachs. Yeah, I really liked her too, and I thought like a lot about her as well, the choices she made and her life. Book that made you cry? As with every time I do this tag, I'm sure I say this every time, but like obviously I cry a lot in response to books. I also would just cry a lot in general. So this one's like kind of hard. I would say that the most I cried, I think, was at All My Puny Sorrows. I did also laugh. I haven't really said that it's funny, but it is a very funny book even as it's extremely tragic and sad. But I did also cry at Confession with Blue Horses in like a way that felt like a meaningful part of the reading experience. And I also cried at The Weather House in a way that I also didn't really expect, because I did like this less than the first one in the series, but I still cried at the end of this when it was all kind of coming together and finishing. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I do cry a lot in general and at books in general also. But I also think that there are a couple books where it like that feels like it's actually like a key part of the reading experience in a way that is like kind of special, and I think that yeah, those three books probably cover it quite well. Book that made you happy, I think that I would probably say, so I feel like I'm just mentioning all the books that I mentioned in my favourite books of the year, but I do feel like I've had actually like less of a good reading year than I normally do, because I'm reading books in a more kind of directed way of what I already own, and like some of these books are quite old, so my tastes have definitely changed, and like what I like and what I'm looking for in a book has definitely changed. And you know, I think that's part of why I haven't had as like great a reading year. And it's also been like very stressful, but I guess every year is very stressful. Yeah, actually wait, I'm gonna say more on that, because I do think actually the fact that I have also been applying for PhDs at the same time, it has been pretty stressful. And I guess that's also meant that I've been like looking for a bit of a different experience with a lot of the books I've been picking up, slash I've been reading what I can read rather than reading what I want to read, which yeah, I think affects my experience with reading. And you know, it took like 4 or 5 months to read a book that I gave 5 stars to, which, you know, I'm not particularly like, I don't really care about star ratings particularly, but like the fact that it took that long does make me a bit sad, because it does show that I wasn't having the level of like exuberant experience with books that I normally do pretty regularly. Like I'm pretty like wishy-washy and easygoing with it, but yeah, even with that. Anyway, a book that made me happy, Middlemarch actually by George Eliot made me really happy. Perhaps part of that is because like, you know, the experience of reading it gave me a really lovely like structure to my days whilst I was, you know, writing this proposal, and that also really helped me to like stay not stressed and escape into this world in a really like regular and like regulated fashion. I do also think that Gingerbread by Helen Oyeyemi made me really happy, because it just really spoke to me. I love that book so much, and like I think I wrote like on Instagram that, you know, I'd give it 6 stars or something if I could. Like I really wish I could give it 6 stars. Like I love it. I just think it works so beautifully. I think it really works with me so beautifully, and I guess there is something kind of a bit special about like reading a book where people are like, I didn't understand what was going on, and being like, huh, this will make so much sense to me. Because I guess I often like feel like I go through life and I do not understand what is going on, and then finally the tables have tabled. Most beautiful book you've bought or received this year. I have spoken about the one that actually fits this a lot, so I'm actually not going to choose it, because I think if you watch like any of the videos where I mention it, like you'll know. So instead I'm going to pick this book, which is pretty ugly, but it's La Femme dans le Socialisme. I'm sorry for my terrible French accent. And yeah, anyway, so I bought this for my mum. She's French. I'm just like softly trying to radicalise her, you know. Got this great picture on the back. Like I don't think that this is very beautiful, like this orange and this red really don't go well together, but you know, I'm hoping you'll understand that it's about the beauty of women-focused politics. My mom's gonna hate me, like. And then the final question is, what books do you need to read by the end of this year? And you know, again, as usual, that is the question of the hour. A book that I really want to read this year that I haven't got a copy of is The Idiot by Elif Batuman, and I'm just like looking out for a copy and I can't find one, but hopefully I will by the end of the year. I really want to read it. I think I am gonna have a bit of a academia setting or like dark academia focused like bit of reading in the next few months, because I haven't done any of that whilst I've been applying for PhDs, and now that I've finished doing that process I maybe feel like I can engage with that world more, and I'm kind of like craving it in a way. And The Idiot is one of the books that is about academia / about like university. I also have a whole load of books that I want to get to. I would like to finish the Subversive Stitch Embroidery in the Making of the Feminine by Rosishka, sorry I don't know if that's right, Parker, because I actually have read 69 pages of it and it was really interesting. I'd love to just finish it before the end of this year, because it's, you know, a really great piece of work on feminist art and just like the history of textiles. I also have some books that I've already shown recently, and those are Everfair by Nisi Shaw, Bid Me to Love by H.D, Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. I think Piranesi is one I'm gonna pick up fairly quick, like fairly soon. Then I also have The Memory of Babel by Christelle Dabo, which is the third in the Mirror Visitor series. I also want to read Child of Fortune by Yuko Tsushima. Also, like, some of these books will be in my TBR probably for Women in Translation Month in August, so you'll probably see them again. There's also After the Death of Don Juan by Sylvia Townsend Warner that I really want to read. Ceremony by Leslie Marmon Silko, which I've had for a while. This one I picked up because I'd never seen one of her books in a charity shop before, so I picked this one up. But I actually really want to read, it's something like Sand, Garden, Dunes, I can't remember quite what it's called, but I actually want to read that one more. But obviously I have this, so I'm going to read this and then move on to more of her work. And then also, before I start my PhD, I would like to read No Modernism Without Lesbians. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure if I'll be learning like that much from this, but I've wanted to read it for ages. It's got such a great title. It's also actually got a great cover too, but it's quite a chunky non-fiction book, so we all know I'm not very good at reading non-fiction books. So yes, those are the books and the questions for the mid-year book freakout tag. Yeah, let me know what you think of my answers, and if you want to answer any of these questions, I'd love to hear that too. And I will talk to you when I next talk to you, and I hope you're having a nice day. Bye!